In 2008, Kenya went into something very big. You know, we came out of the post-election violence, we're doing everything, and then, you know, we launched Vision 2030, which was saying that by 2030, Kenya shall be a newly industrializing middle-income country, providing a high quality of life for its citizens, clean and secure environment, okay? It had several pillars. It had the economic pillar, which is where now we are going to become industrialized. It had the social pillar, which is looking at all these other things, you know, our health, our education, our water, our housing, our environment, our urbanization. It had the political pillar, which was saying that we're going to have a new, you know, rule of law. Let's have a constitution. Let's have electoral reforms, like Kriegler has said. Let's have, you know, a system that is more accountable to the people, and so on and so forth. Sasa, it was to be implemented in blocks. 5 years. 5 years, do this, let's review, let's review, let's review. They were called medium-term plans. We're in the final medium-term plan now, which is between 2023 and 2027. This is around where we are at. And because Vision 2030 is coming to an end, last week we had this conversation. Vision 2030 is coming to an end. Do we end? Or do we move to the next thing, right? The president came out and said, actually, let's have a conversation about moving to the next thing. Before we come to August 12th, let us spend this couple of days looking back into understanding what was Vision 2030. Have we lived to the ideals and dreams of Vision 2030? What are the wins? What are the flops?
Right.
Being very sincere, tuambiane ukwe.
Kweli.
Dr. Emmanuel Nzai is the chairman of the Vision 2030 Delivery Board at present, and he's our guest for the next hour. Good morning, Dr.
Good morning, good morning. Thank you so much.
It's good to have you here.
Glad to be here.
The way we start the conversation is by giving you the day's quote. Felaris will tell you something that was said by somebody. Let's see what you think about it.
Karibu sana. Today's quote is courtesy of an author, Lawrence Nolt. And the quote reads, "The river teaches us that persistence is stronger than force." How does that speak to you? How do you translate it? The river teaches us that persistence is stronger than force.
It's because the river moves with the landscape. It moves with the gravity and the lay of the land. So with that, it will be persistent as long as there is the water running. And that is where the gravity, the forces run. The rest does not matter.
Well, speaking of persistence, the conversation we're about to have is squarely on exactly what you've explained. Well, the conditions are optimal. Are we driving towards the vision that had been created for Kenya? And this is our scorecard. So Eric rightfully explained what Vision 2030 was and what the pillars were. From your assessment, before we get into it, on a scale of 1 to 10, what mark would you give us?
Above 6.
Above 6.
Above 6.
Above 6 is 7, 8, strong.
6,
9.
6.5, 7. That's where we are. From 2008, when it was launched until now, the aggregate of the Vision 2030 implementation collectively, not one. The pillars that Latif just talked about, economic pillar, social pillar, political pillar, the macros and enablers and foundations, the aggregate of it, we are 65% and above.
Okay.
You know, if many Kenyans actually just think of Vision 2030, remember initially there was a Vision 2030 and there'd be flagship projects. It is, we are so used as Kenyans to things that we are seeing, tangible things. If there's no board showing this is a Vision 2030 flagship project, then there is no Vision 2030, right? So what are some of these things that you could say would add into this aggregate of over 60%? Things start with the visible things, and then go to the intangible things.
Yes, thank you. You see, it has always been explained that there is the hardware and the software of the Vision 2030. There's flagship projects, there's programs which have been rationalized, they have been sequenced to be implemented from 2008 within the medium-term plan. A bigger part of actually our successes has been the software side, much as the hardware of the thicker highway, the expressway, the SGR, which are really visible and they're very, very beautiful to the eyes. But the most critical one actually was the number one flagship project, which was for us to promulgate a constitution. And the implementation of that constitution, it changed the whole architecture of government. And that's what we would not be here today if we would not have had the constitution and much of the reforms that they moved forward, the freedoms of speeches and the conversations, everything that we enjoy. But more important, I think, out of it has been really the discipline, talk about persistence, has really been the discipline of successive governments. Vision 2030 was launched by President Kibaki in 2008. Remember what had happened in 2007. That was the trigger. We should not forget that. And before 2007, what had happened, the multi-party push and the push for the new constitution, that was the real soul of the country. And the president said then that, look, this constitution is very good that we want, but we cannot implement this constitution in a day, 5 years. We must move from shorter term thinking to longer term thinking, and with that we need to plan if we are going to achieve the constitution itself. So the Kenya Constitution became the number one flagship project. We launched in 2008. 2010 we launched the constitution, and the Vision 2030 flips to keep on moving in terms of implementation, with the ministry, department, and agencies who are responsible for the vision, for the constitution, taking the programs and projects inside it. So if you look carefully, I think much of those programs have been, with all fairness, I think that some of the institutions in government have really worked to implement the constitution. The Kenyan people themselves now fully know and understand. They have read the constitution, they have internalized, and they're exercising their rights for their constitution.
Okay. I'll even come back to that, because constitutional implementation is it's a monster. It requires quite a bit of time. But then there's things that would go in tandem with implementing the constitution and doing a lot more. One of the basics, and something we've talked about on this show a lot as far as economic growth, is manufacturing as a sector, for example. Goal was that manufacturing be 30% of our GDP, right, by 2030. Manufacturing currently is 7.4% of our GDP and has been shrinking over the last few years. Why? What's happening? And we're so far off target that in the next 3 years we cannot move from 7.4 to 30.
Well, you know, and you're right on that, and it is true in the whole of in the grand scheme of things, and the president has said it. There has been misses on it. There has been missed opportunities. I think we have all admitted that in government. And that is true to any strategy, by the way. Whether be it a household strategy, a company strategy, a government strategy, it is the same. So look at it in kind of the landscape, especially on the manufacturing that you are talking about. The president has been the champion of talking about local manufacturing, that we must remove this thing about us importing, we must export. And that's why when you look at the new MTP that we have in the bottom-up economic transformation, this is what we have. It's very clear. In the bottom-up economic transformation agenda of this last MTP, the thrust has been on manufacturing. The thrust has bottom-up means you're empowering the micro, small, medium enterprises at the lowest level for them to produce. It's been productivity. So productivity equals then you exporting and consuming what you're producing. So that level of investment in the manufacturing and the whole of that framework was weak. And if you look at it carefully, what has happened now that there is movement in the manufacturing, the truth is there is movement. One of my favorite parts has been the pharmaceutical manufacturing space now in Kenya. We are moving ahead very aggressively in that space. That is totally in the health sector. When we talk about the agricultural produce, large scale farming, the setup of these special economic zones as manufacturing zones. All that has been the enabling infrastructure for us to enable manufacturing. Private sector is responding. So it is true, we are a little behind. And I think what we are saying, based on the the baseline we have created with this MTP 4, is for us to invest heavily in that space. It is no coincidence, because when you hear a conversation now that Dangote is coming out to Lamu, why is he going to Lamu? That is a part of it catalyzing manufacturing in the special economic zone of Lamu, a Kenya Vision 2030 project. He would not even think twice about coming to Lamu had it not been the Vision 2030 LabSet project with its 7 components, with much of its continental reach, where we've been talking about Lamu and Douala, a land bridge, opening up all the way to Ethiopia, putting in the special economic zone, the port, the rail, the pipeline, all those 7 components. He would not have come if we did not have a plan as a country, which again has been persistent from 2008, and there is consistency.
Walk me through how we tie in these economic plans to our year-on-year running, because, and I think for me, manufacturing is one of those where the disparity is blatant, and you're like, okay, we're a bit off target. We're not a bit off target, we're significantly off target. And like I said, 7.4 to 30% is a stretch. But then you look at the fact that in 2022, manufacturing was 7.8% of our GDP. So there's still shrinkage going on. And we can talk about, yes, Dangote is coming. True, pharmaceutical manufacturing, it's been a slight increase over the last year. But as a whole, the manufacturing industry is shrinking. And then you look at one of the basics of attracting investment and attracting manufacturing. It's things like a predictable tax regime. It's being able to know that if I come here, this is what I'll pay for the next 10, 20, 30 years, which is not possible as it stands right now. How does the vision tie into day-to-day running of government? Because there's a big discrepancy in how we do things qua ground and what is in your 4th medium-term plan.
Well, there is no discrepancy. I think what the Kenyan people want is...
I just described the discrepancy.
What the Kenyan people are
no
what we want the Kenyan ingenuity itself. We are fast movers. You know, we are fast movers. We want things to happen now. And that's Kenyan ingenuity. Okay? Yeah. It is the reason we created the Constitution. It's the reason today we are ranked one of the top African countries in terms of competitiveness. We're very, very competitive. So we want things to move. Now, what we are saying is, out of that, we figured that a long time ago. The way to do it, we must have a plan. Everything is costed out. Okay? This medium-term plan that we have has been costed out as 16 trillion for it to be done. Guess what? We've been trying to push at the government level to 10 trillion for us to be able to finance it, including in that is manufacturing. We have to look for 6 trillion plus from different sources. And that's why we've been now talking about this infrastructure bond, the sovereign wealth fund, the bonds, and raising money from the capital markets. But to your question, Vision 2030 specifically to catalyze manufacturing in the country has been one key flagship project, the special economic zones. Okay. All of them following the logistics clusters. If you look at it carefully, it has always been Mombasa, the Dongukundu Special Economic Zone, the Lamu as a special economic zone, and now opening the corridor all the way to Naivasha. And Nairobi here, there has been the Tatu cities, which are privately initiated special economic zones, and those have been happening. What has been the problem? The problem has been the enabling infrastructure. And all those, it goes back to infrastructure. We need power in these places which will enable manufacturing competitively. Okay, we don't want to go into details because we know the cost of power and reliability. And that's why we started again Vision 2030 project, clean power, geothermal, which was started, and there's movement across that. the road infrastructure for you to actually now move goods in a way that it is competitive, it makes sense from the farm or from production site all the way to the logistical corridor. That costs a lot of money. But it is where we have the rationale when the president talks about infrastructure, and he's building roads. That is the reason. It's opening up the country to bring in the enabling environment, lowering the cost of production through that, which has been high. And like I said, it is true we are low. And the good thing about being low is you have no choice but to go up. So that
We've been shrinking.
There is quite some movement in that space. And again, the reason why we have the infrastructure bond was an intervention that we knew we can't fund it. Government cannot fund it by itself. We need to create ways for the private sector to come. And I think much of that, to give it credit, especially to the financial services deepening space, we've been able to do that where now we can attract private sector fund because the regulatory framework and the whole policy framework is now there for it to be able to do this.
Can the country sustain this vision? And I'm asking that from a point of just how much money we have to run this country. There's so much external borrowing now, we are borrowing domestically. Is it a sustainable vision now that we are doing the countdown to 2030?
I'll tell you this, and it's actually in the words of the president. Number one, we don't have a choice, okay? We do not have a choice but to sustain it. We must and we should, and we need to move forward, okay? Why? Kenya is a low middle income country, a Vision 2030 project where we wanted to be a middle income country. We did not achieve that, but we've come to a lower middle income space, right? What does that mean in the global economic architecture? What it means simply is you need to start to be self-sufficient. You need to bring in more private sector participation. And I tell you, if you listen to the president in Kenya, and you listen to the president when he's outside the country now talking about Kenya, and I think that's the most genuine moment because it's all systems that he's simply, doesn't matter your political affiliation, he's simply talking about the country. He's been talking more about this global financial architecture which has been running against us in Africa, but most of course he's thinking about the country. So the whole of that system, which is systemic, it's not just Kenya. It is about the global financial economic system, which is also running against us, not only Kenya, but the African continent in terms of the inflow. So more so now, as a lower middle income country, okay? When we have the Africa Forward on bringing the French, it's part of that. It's part of that conversation where we must sustain it. When now we're talking about a sovereign wealth fund, it is about that sustaining. When we're talking about the infrastructure fund, when we're talking about and leading from the front as Kenya, as the leading competitive country, to kind of crowd the whole African continent to have this conversation, it's part of that. So not only do we not have a choice, but the good thing now is we're saying we have a robust constitution, a very progressive constitution, which we now need to use that because it was very, very well thought out for the Kenyan people that it can be the rail for us to take it forward. The other side of the rail, which is two parts, is the Kenya Constitution, rail huwa ni mbili, hapa ni rail moja, ni Kenya Constitution. The other rail has been always Vision 2030, the policy, and that needs to keep on moving so that the train can move.
They have to be together. The question is for the public, would these things have happened without Vision 2030? Do we feel Vision 2030 on a daily basis? Are we supposed to, maybe, you know, from a planning perspective, you just listen to Dr. Nzai, these things happen at such a higher level that it's just looking at all the, you know, this machine moving, all the cogs and wheels and bearings all moving. You just feel a machine moving. But you actually, there's a guy who can see it is moving because it has all these propellers, it has all these pulleys and all moving. Should we be feeling all these aspects of a Vision 2030? Or should we just be looking at a country developing? We are asking, what are the hits, what are the misses of Vision 2030? as we come to the conclusion of this particular Vision 2030 since 2008 with the chairman of the delivery board, Dr. Emmanuel Nzai. Keep it here for more conversations. If you've got a question or a comment or feedback, you can also post them on X at NTV Kenya, Facebook NTV Kenya, YouTube NTV Kenya. We'll be back shortly.
Hi Fixers, my name is Wangeshi Murioki, producer of Fixing the Nation, na niko hapa na Captain Mutie. Captain Mutie is helping us to fuel this chopper, right? Captain, thank you so much. How long have you done this?
I've been flying for the last 40 years, since 1986.
Wow. Before I was born.
For the KDF, Kenya Police, Commercial Aviation, Kenya Forest, and Kenya Water Service.
Why are we fueling in the bush?
We are topping up fuel so that we can go and look around the park, Southwest National Park.
Okay. Yeah. What do you have to tell people who would want to try this?
They are very much welcome. It's a very satisfying career when it is working. Okay. Once there are certain challenges, but you can still make it.
Right?
Yeah. It's a good career.
You're a fixer.
Yeah.
We fix the nation?
From Savo.
From Savo.
Thank you so much, Wangeshi, and of course, Captain Mutei. That is a wonderful, wonderful What's Up Nation video. Now, the captain was helping the fixers fuel the chopper, not the other way around, okay? Okay?
Get it right.
No. Yeah, he's the one who was helping us.
Yeah, fuel the chopper.
To fuel our chopper.
Yes. Watu kidogo, I see problems here. Watu wakishika power, there will be problems. Fueling a chopper, wameshasema, thanks, Captain, for helping us fuel. No, but that's a wonderful What's Up Nation video. We'd like to see and hear from fixers as you go about your day, as you go about your adventures, as you go to school, as you go to work, as you fix the nation. Send us your video. Our number is 0769 590 762. 0769 590 762. You'll see it at the bottom of your screen right now. And of course, we'll be more than happy to share that video, Kesho. Easy as that.
I'm telling you, fixers wako hapa. And they have very many things to say about the Vision 2030. Still Mike the One has a couple of comments. One key pillar of the Vision 2030 was on education expansion, free primary education, and wider access to secondary education, increased enrollment. Are we living in a denial, or has that been implemented? Lenny D. Steve says, talk is cheap. The president is intentional on manufacturing. How? When SMEs are falling right, left, and center. Charles Ndongo says, this is where we, the Mwananchi, differ with government proponents. The constitution has been subverted repeatedly by the last two regimes, especially on areas touching rights and murdering of the economy. Eli says, China destroyed the manufacturing industry and India is prepared to make it worse. The only solution is automation. Steve Okech, I want to believe when Kibaki spoke of Vision 2030, he had more than just infrastructure in mind. And to say that we are 60%, the math is not mathing. It almost feels like we are chasing the wind. The Kikombe remembers the Daily Nation headline and the photo that accompanied the launch of Vision 2030. Nairobi city depiction was a beautiful, photoshopped image. The city almost looks that way. Infrastructure, eco, you know? I do not know whether the Kikombe here is being cynical or not. Physical infrastructure is a win. Lakini the structural systems, governance and accountability as well, and job creations, I think we scored poorly. Average score, a strong C-. That's what Mwalimu, the Kikombe, gives it.
Okay.
Bibi Sumi says, Kenya does have a choice. Kenya does have a choice, and the president is not the only one with the brain that can think about Kenya's future. These political appointees are cheerleaders. We need serious technocrats. Bana. Dr. Nzai is a serious technocrat. Steve Okech, if they were intentional about Vision 2030, the focus would be on industrialization and not the affordable housing projects designed to profit a few. Bakari Sanya, is the Konza Technopolis progressing on schedule to achieve full completion under Vision 2030 targets? Charles Ndongo, our kids are living pathetic lives in the universities, broken infrastructure, outdated learning areas, and this doesn't make sense because the shiny things are the only things that they are visible. Dani kumeoza. Very many of these comments, Dr. Nzai. Bibi Usumi says, can you tell us what has been achieved to date in Vision 2030? What remains to be implemented? Why not continue on that same path by finishing what had been planned?
And that's exactly what we are doing. And I think, again, let me just say this about this fourth medium-term plan and what really happened. If you look at it carefully, it would have been easy for President Uhuru Kenyatta and Ruto. They have their big four agenda after we've elected them, and they say just replace the Vision 2030. Yeah. But why is it that they could not just do that? Because one, the priorities of the countries have not changed. The whole public participation process of the Constitution and Vision 2030 that went together, Kenyans had spoken. And it still remains, I think, the first medium-term plan of the first one, 2008 to 2012, was the most important medium-term plan. If you map the flagships which are there right now, there were 97 of them. If you map them out and how they grew all the way until now, you will see kind of the consistency and the results of it. Okay. Today,
we had 97 flagships.
That was in the first MTP. In this MTP, there is 387 programs and projects because of, again, of the many programs we needed to run in the bottom up. But what's important in that shift is this. President Ruto comes and we are lower middle income country. Okay, the pressure is on. COVID has just happened. The global shocks are there. It is true. Debt is already high, and the flagship projects still need to be implemented because 2030 is coming whichever way, right? What does he need to do? And I think again, politics aside, the brilliance of the conversation about bottom-up economic transformation was simply moving away from trickle-down economics, where it was really the top percent, very few, 1%, 2%, where they were running much of the economy, and that was not trickling down as it is to the bottom. Okay, so the programs today, the whole MTP needed to have a whole mass of programs which will kind of be able to shift that. So today, as we stand as a lower middle income country, we did not have a choice but go to the bottom and start moving it up. And at the bottom, what do you get? You get the social pillar, largely, education and health. Those are expensive spaces, and you have to compete with the budget between those spaces. Now talk also about the youth population, this demographic dividend, which we'll talk about in a moment. So when we have that, then you have it on the table of what need to be prioritized at that moment. But today you move everywhere. What the Vision 2030 has done, it has informed political manifestos. It had informed companies. We've been called at the Vision 2030 Secretariat always. Someone comes and say, can you adopt my project because I have aligned it to the Vision 2030. It has informed many, many people. I think, Latif, you were just talking about it here and all this conversation. Somehow, every Kenyan, they know at least the name of Vision 2030, which is longer term thinking, and that informs much of their thinking. Flagship projects, the hardware that we talk about. You cannot move in this country without you kind of stepping every morning or interacting with a Vision 2030 impacted program or projects. Okay? That has happened. And it's happening. So I think we are to talk about Konza. Konza, I think, and again, if you look at it carefully, when Konza was planned, conceptualized. Everyone thought it was just a wild dream. You know, you would be driving out to Mombasa and you just see this land, and everyone. If you go back to the stories that was and the skepticism which was there was amazing. Today, you look at it and you're proud. Is it happening? Yes. Has it been hard? Yes. Does it take time to do it? Absolutely. So I think with what we have on the... Did you put that on the screen?
You can put it on the screen now, Philip. There's a graph that Dr. Nzai wants to walk us through.
I just want to walk you through that because I think this thing that, the State Department of Economic Planning on Schedule 4 is the one which is now mandated by the Constitution to plan for the country. And that has been codified. And that's what, when the president stood there to speak, he was not doing it as the party leader of UDA. He was doing it as the president of the Republic of Kenya. And what I liked about that is he went through the speech, and when he was done, he left it as it is, because that's a policy process that he is articulating, and he is doing his mandate. That came from the State Department of Economic Planning, and what he said, much of the team by Nyang Nyong, which I call it the Vision 2030 Legacy team, who know about the legacy. Okay, but where are we right now, which has been discussed? Kenya, we defined our problems. There were three. From the beginning, if that graph can go back, and it was that was the first policy. Okay, out of it, every successive plan and even the Vision 2030 simply build on those three problems, which we have still struggled with them. But what's important around that then is where we are right now and what the Kenyans saying. In summary, what the Kenyans are saying from the Vision 2030 board, and we listen because that's our job. The Kenyans want a reason to believe. Okay. Because again, we're very competitive, right? They want a reason to believe at any given time that what you are saying and what you are promising, will it be done? Okay. So this process between now and 2030, what the president is saying, we need to give the Kenyan people in the countdown a reason to believe. And that reason to believe is again on the Constitution and on the Vision 2030, where we will go through the progress and the status of the Vision 2030. That work is ongoing and will engage the Kenyan people. But something very, very important in that graph, as we are seeing it, and we've gone through this, but very, very quickly. What is the most important thing right now, or the Kenyan citizen today, in respect to 2060? Okay? The oldest Gen Z was born in 1997. Okay? In 2008, that old Gen Z was how old? 11 years old. Right?
Around 11 years.
11 years old. In 2010, they were what? 13 years old. Think about the parents who are creating the Vision 2030 and the Constitution. Who did they have in mind? Today we have a video of those young people then who are Gen Zs, and that has lived through. Okay? They had in mind this Kenya Vision 2030 was being created for them because they will be 3 years old in 2030. Okay? These are the ones who are in school today. They're the ones who have started going to the workplace, and they are majority of this country. What does that mean, and what this process, what it means? It means that as we are going into 2030 and the 3 years of a Gen Z, and what the president has laid down is for us to have a conversation, for us to share. It's almost a succession plan that the president is putting forward between the older generation of this country and the obligation that we have for us to have a structured conversation. We went through this through the Constitution before. And I think that's what we need to do, and it is fair. So through that, then, what it means is by 2060, the Gen Z will be 63 years old. Let's just have that sink for a moment. Wouldn't it be nice for this Gen Z to think themselves of how they're going to plan when they retire when they're 63 years old? Okay. What's the process? We're obligated for us to work with them for us to do that, right? And as we are doing that, the Vision 2030 itself said it from the beginning, and it's in the last page of the Vision 2030. We say for us to do this, we must adopt a business unusual, transformative leadership, and this is a call to all Kenyans. It's not just the implementing agencies. Relentless focus on results, war for talent. We need the best of the best breed to be running these institutions and be able to do this. And most of it, we knew that there would be a gap in the funding. So we must bring in public-private partnerships. Okay. So I think that call still stands today as we transition. And I think what the president said was it was a call now for business unusual, We need to adopt a transformative leadership mindset from both the government and even the public as we engage and we plan together.
What are the risks of this being political? Because he was saying, the president said, and I even told Falaris that I absolutely liked the first part of the president where I felt that he was being a statesman, speaking about the future. Yeah. And then he brought in the politics of saying what he has achieved. And I was like, okay, good. Now, what are the risks of us getting into this conversation in August and it just becomes a one-term, two-term conversation? Yeah. And I promise to do this if you re-elect me, conversation. Yeah. Rather than a 2063 conversation, let's think future conversation. The good thing about Kibaki in 2008, it was just after the election. He had been politically neutered. He was being forced to share power with somebody else. I mean, he was not at a point where he's campaigning for anything. True. He's now working on his legacy.
Yes. But you see, and that's why we have a political pillar in the Kenya Vision 2030 for exactly that. We cannot pretend in the policy-making process that politics is not there, okay? And I think that was the founding of the Constitution itself. We said never again will the politics of this country raid this country. We say that. Then came the Vision 2030, the first pillars by the experts. There were two, economic and social pillar. When we brought it to the Kenyan people, they said no. This we cannot achieve if we do not talk about the political. Yeah. So we must have a political pillar. Very deliberate, very intentional by listening, and then we'll have the enablers. So do we have a risk? No. The risk is, it's the politics is already there.
Part and parcel.
It's part and the parcel of it, right? It's part and parcel. And what the president, I think, has said, and to all fairness, of course, he must say what has worked, even in this conversation, what has worked, what has not worked. But what he's also said was the whole of this process is for us collectively to really take a look and reflect on it of what has worked, what has not worked, okay? Now, one thing that this process I think will take, and you just talked about President Kibaki, President Kibaki, when he came, realized the constitutional process was going on. The engagement had been going on in very, very intense mode, okay? From the Moi era all the way to where he was, okay? So it had reached at the peak, where it was easily, from a policy making, where you know the pulse of the country for you to create a constitution and for you to create a Vision 2030, okay? Now, right now we have kind of the same kind of spectrum. Why? The Kenya Constitution introduced a devolved system of government. We have 48 governments now. That was not in the Vision 2030 at the beginning in terms of that architecture. Right. So we need to bring the Constitution to the front and the policy making in between, because it has also been working where we would do the MTP. When it is approved by the president, it informs the county integrated development plans and sectors across. And that has been happening consistently. So today you don't just look at the Vision 2030 itself on this MTP. You need to look at this book and also look at the county integrated development plan, look at the sector plans from the Vision 2030, and look at the county sector plans that have been done. Look at the spatial plan, the national spatial plan, and the county spatial plan. And the whole of that framework then becomes the architecture. So I think we have that opportunity to do that. Politics and Kenya is part of it. We work with it, we discuss it, but all of it, at least, we know that we have a beautiful constitution that we will uphold.
The politics of the day we can't separate the two, and at least it's one of the pillars. But to an ordinary Kenyan who keeps on hearing that the economy has grown by X%, that the economy is doing this, but when you look at the quality of life, it's not reflecting the same. Now, Vision 2030 made a very big promise on the quality of life. I don't know what that was termed as, or what the explanation of good quality of life maybe will tell us, but how do you help Kenyans make sense of a document that says we are growing economically, but qua ground, it's not in tandem.
That is true. So that is in the social pillar. You know, for us to move together as a nation with high quality of life, prosperity and health. So if you quickly look at that, is simply, are you living in a secure and healthy environment? Do you go home and enjoy the country as a citizen with all it has, with your God-given rights and also your simply rights as a citizen? Do you have that? Okay? And when you do that, by the way, Waswahili wanasema viwili huchaguliwa. You need to compare it also with other countries. You need to compare it, what you have here, with other countries, honestly. Because then that gives you a perspective. And you also delve into the other countries. Why are they where they are? And even with myself, with my problems, am I better than they are? Would I be better off to go to that country than my country? And that gives you a yardstick with a lot of sincerity.
Is the yardstick other countries or our former selves?
Viwili huchaguliwa. Right? Okay. So it is true, but you can, when you compete with yourself, it's a different thing than competing with others in a place where it's competitive anyway. So the reason you say that is because you get a perspective and reality check. That when global shocks happen, it does not just affect your country. Okay? It affects others. But how bad are they affected than you, and what's your resilience for you to sustain that, and have we sustained that? So it is true, but all in context, I think. This country has been resilient, and we have enjoyed a lot of rights and movement progressively, you know, despite all. Talk about education and the gaps which are there. But I'm telling you, yesterday, just to give you an example, I met some people who had just moved from the US, missionaries, and they've come here twice. Now they have moved here for the next 4 years. And everyone is very consistent. A lot of foreigners who are here talk more positively of how of a beautiful country we have. You know, the resilience, the ingenuity of the Kenyan people, how nice we are as a people, and everything that you know, they say in Kenya, you can actually get everything that you need, just like any other place.
Kenya is beautiful when you have dollars and euros.
Very good.
And pounds.
And a powerful passport.
It goes and a
that
powerful
allows you to
passport.
live when you
So you find infrastructure that actually works well for your dollars and all, which means that there's the infrastructure in place. Which means that what we are lacking here is just the shilling.
In short,
Okay.
because think of the dollar as the expressway, and then the shilling as
the
highway.
And that too is in the plan of the Vision 2030. And that's why, again, you know, for you to get that dollar is creation of employment, which is this heavy investments which we need to make. And I think we have an opportunity now. We by and large, I'm saying, from simply policy making, right? And this Vision 20 that I love, it has worked for us, and it's working for us.
Okay.
Because everything that we have and speak about, somehow it has found itself in the plan. I think someone was, and it finds itself in the budgetary process. The priorities are set.
Yes.
The performance contracts are signed against this. The gap that we have, we know, is simply now the funding.
The funding,
okay, which I think across systems, and also I think kudos to our cabinet secretary. He's been in the front to talk about it, and some of the struggles that he's making to make this economic policy work for the country.
Dr. Nzai, our time is up, but thank you for speaking to us today. This conversation has begun. I know there is the Africa Capital Week. Africa Capital Week that the Vision 2030 is organizing. We'll talk about that on a later date. You'll come and tell us more about it and why Vision 2030 is bringing together capital from all over the world to achieve whatever you want to achieve.
But I could do that in half a minute.
Half a minute.
Half a minute.
Do that.
Okay. So we talked about the gap in funding and one of the biggest challenges we have had at Vision 2030, and that's the much of the conversation.
Okay.
The progress we have made, there has been one flagship project at the Vision 2030 from 2008, deepening of capital markets. We are taking that to the front, that we raise funds through the capital markets, alternative funding to fund the Vision 2030 projects. A good example is the Kenya pipeline listing. And you guys discussed this for a long time. Why did it take 18 years? And why is it now all of a sudden? Because policies, it was very deliberate in terms of policies. So we're finding a way now, we want to bring 20 securities exchanges from Africa to come and discuss so that we can learn from them and they also learn from us. But the idea is all the Vision 2030 projects now, we look for ways for them to be funded through the capital markets.
Okay.
When is that?
That's happening on September 7th. The week of September 7th to the 11th, that's the African Capital Week, deepening of capital markets to advance Africa's economic sovereignty.
Asante. Dr. Emmanuel Nzai, the chairman of the Vision 2030 board, has been our guest. This Vision 2030, we have to continue talking about it. Okay,
absolutely.
The president came and talked about it, but we have to continue talking about it as well. In the next hour, we will continue talking about it, but from the youth perspective, are the youth buying this Vision 2030, Vision 2060 conversation? The Gen Z that Dr. Nzai has talked about will be here. Clarence Kagura is a Gen Z youth advocate. He will be telling us what he feels. How old was he in 2008? How old is he today? How old is he going to be in 2030 and in 2060? And what does he want for his country? Keep it here for that. It's 9 a.m.